and welcome to this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Riley McManus. Pikangikum First Nation is finally going to see a bridge built over the Barrens River, something the community has been working towards for 30 years. The Ford government announced Wednesday that it'll cover more than half the cost of the estimated $76 million project. Justin Hardy was in the community for the announcement and has this report.
I just think of all the young people, what it will mean to them. They'll get to travel.
Pikangikum members had major cause for celebration following the province's commitment to help build a new bridge over the Barrens River and an all-season access road to Pikangikum. The remote community has previously had to rely on ice roads in the winter or in the warmer months a 30-minute boat taxi ride from the gravel road north of Red Lake to the First Nation. This new bridge and permanent road will provide year-round vehicle access to the community, something Chief Shirley Keeper and the chiefs before her have been working on since the 1990s.
Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed. I have so many feelings rushing through my mind, and with the people here and the guests from the provincial and the federal level, and to have guests from other communities, our surrounding neighbors. And I'd just like to first just thank all the community members that came here to share the funding announcement here in Pikangikum First Nation, and we're making history for our children.
The Barrens River Bridge and All-Season Road project will increase opportunities for harvesting wood in the Whitefeather Forest. Officials with Frontier Lithium add that this infrastructure will help unlock the potential at their PAC lithium project north of Pikangikum. The project also lays the groundwork for connecting an additional 6 First Nations to Ontario's road network, something Greg Rickford, Minister of Indigenous Affairs, says will be crucial to the communities as they continue to grow.
The important message here today for the people of Ontario is that we are unleashing an incredible opportunity here by working with Pikangikum First Nations and the communities farther north to provide real physical access to services and programs and amenities that many of us take for granted. Health, social, and economic factors factored into to our decision to be a full partner with the community and the federal government.
The Independent First Nations Alliance estimates the cost of the project to be $76.4 million. The federal government dedicated over $20 million for the project in the 2024 budget, according to Indigenous Services Minister Patty Haidu, who was not in attendance at the announcement.
This is a really important project, not just for Pikangikum, which will help actually increase access to that community year-round, but it's also a really important project for all of Northwestern Ontario. And increasingly, as we see climate change affecting things like ice roads, we're going to be having more and more conversations with our provincial counterparts about how to bridge that gap, literally, about far north communities that don't have access year-round.
Assuming the federal budget is approved, ground is expected to be broken at the site this spring, with work planned to be completed in 2027. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Meanwhile, the federal government is investing in another project at Pikangikum First Nation. Minister Patty Haidu's office issued a media release on Thursday, announcing $17 million from the Green and Inclusive Communities Building Program for a major new facility in the First Nation. The funds will go to help build a cultural learning and community center, which will have daycare services providing holistic supports for children and their families. It will also host an adult learning center supporting education and skills development. The building will serve as a community center, which will provide a range of recreational opportunities for the First Nation. The facility will include geothermal heating, photoelectric lighting, and solar panels installed on the roof. It'll be built to net zero carbon design standards and is intended to be a welcoming center for the whole community. Some shocking news out of the town of Rainy River. As of September 30th, doctors will be pulling their services from the Rainy River Health Center. The 3 physicians say under the current conditions, they are unable to safely provide 24-hour ER coverage as mandated in their contract with the Ministry of Health. One of the doctors will continue providing some clinic services until November 30th. Parks Canada announced Friday that construction of a $37 million facility at the Nipissing Marina will not continue. An archaeological assessment of the site has determined that historic remains found there in May date back to pre-European contact. Construction ceased at the site after remains were found there. Initial reports estimated the remains were of those of a First Nations man who would have lived before the 17th century, prompting further archaeological work at the site. Officials with Parks Canada aren't sharing details of the results, except to confirm the remains are pre-contact and that the site is no longer a viable location for the Lake Superior National Marine Conservation Centre building.
I support the decision not to build at the site that we were planning to be at because we need to respect those who came before us and their final resting places. But I'm a longtime local of Nipissing, and so this is a project that's really important to me, and I was really looking forward to having it down at the Nipissing Marina. And I just see this as a little bit of a setback and a delay in our planning as we continue to look for a new site to be able to build the Administration and Visitor Center.
Nyman says locations in Nipissing will be prioritized in the search, although that could mean moving away from the waterfront. Parks Canada has cancelled the $37 million contract with Finway General Contractor. Project timelines will be significantly delayed and the budget will increase, although Nyman says it's much too early to say how much. $5 million has already been invested into the project. CN Rail and Canadian Pacific Kansas City locked out nearly 10,000 workers across the country on Thursday, including more than 250 people here in the Northwest. The federal labor minister swiftly intervened and sent the two sides to binding arbitration. Before the quick end to the lockout was announced, Jayden Billick visited the picket lines in Thunder Bay and files this report.
Picketers standing on the front line say they just want to go back to work. But as their contract ended January 1st, negotiations have stalled between the rail companies and the Teamsters Union, which represents the 6,000 CN workers and 3,000 CPKC employees. These workers on the picket line outside the CP station feel they need to stand up in order to preserve public safety, streamline their scheduling, and bring about changes to regulatory rest in order to create a better work-life balance.
You have to understand that the people that work at the railroad, it's a 24/7 operation. We don't shut down for weather, COVID, we don't shut down. You hear a lot of people say life and the railroad don't mix, and it's true. Like you get a call and 2 hours later you have to be at work. What's been happening with the regulatory rest, some people are getting sent off to Ignace or they're away from home terminal. They're stuck there for 48 hours and the company won't pay them. So it's wrong. You know, you're supposed to have a work-life balance, and it hasn't been happening the last little bit. So that's what we're fighting for.
This historic event of Canada's first full stoppage of freight trains will negatively impact the local and national economy, as the combined companies haul about $1 billion in goods daily. Here in the Northwest, there's close to 100 engineers and conductors impacted in Thunder Bay, around 60 in Schreiber, and just over 100 in Kenora. The workers say they're proud of their jobs nonetheless and just want to improve safety for everyone.
And we strive on being safe, well-rested, and we want to work. We want to move this traffic. We want to see the grains. We want to toot the horn at the kids at the marina. That's a great feeling to see these kids, you know, give you a little hoot but we can't do that sitting on the picket line. This is the way we have to start doing this and let people honk for us this time. But yeah, overall, we just want this strike to be over. We want to have a win-win for both.
Jayden Billick, TBT News.
Once again, the government sent the two sides to binding arbitration, causing the lockout to end on Thursday evening. Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP Kevin Holland believes he can have a larger impact now that he's part of the Ford cabinet. Holland was appointed last week as the Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products, a portfolio he says he's very comfortable with. Vasilios Bellos reports.
A local member of provincial parliament has seen a number of minor roles in the Ford government during his first term, and he's now part of the Ontario cabinet.
Humbled by it and immediately excited by the opportunities that was providing for me.
Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP Kevin Holland has taken on the role of Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products. It's part of the Ministry of Natural Resources, and a file Holland says already makes up 60% of the work he does in his riding. The new Associate Minister admits that forestry is struggling, but believes he can make a positive impact on the industry and other issues concerning his riding.
On every topic that comes up and provide that perspective for Thunder Bay and direct, but broadly for Northwestern Ontario. As far as what it means for my roles, I believe much more engaged with the forestry sector all across the province.
One of Holland's new duties includes visiting mills across Ontario. with there still being significant concerns about the Terrace Bay Mill. The facility has been closed since January, and Holland says his government's committed to reopening it.
Whether it's going to be opened up under the current owner or whether they find a buyer, we have to just be there to assist the communities and assist the workers until such time that there is an option put on the table for our consideration. A lot of the issues are outside of our control, of course.
As for the other MPP in the Thunder Bay area, Lise Vaugeois of the New Democrats, she congratulates Holland on his new role and believes he could have a positive impact on the region. Her concern lies with the movement happening within the Ford cabinet.
I think it's good to have somebody from the north on those files. It's been fairly chaotic, so there's a lot of change, and one could question what's going on, that there's so much movement in the cabinet or so many ministers. It is the most expensive cabinet in the history of Ontario.
Vaugeois goes on to say Holland can bring northern insight to his cabinet position. Viciolos Balos, TBC News.
Now time for a short break. When we come back, we'll hear about the beer store closures in Nipissing and Greenstone.
It's just not, people that consume alcoholic beverages, like from the beer store, but it's the restaurants, right, and the local businesses.
Residents in Nipissing and Greenstone are expressing concerns about the planned closures of their local beer store outlets. The closures will take effect at the end of this month, and with very little warning or advance notice. Justin Hardy was in Nipissing and has reaction from that community.
Many residents in both Nipissing and Geraldton were shocked to hear that their local beer stores would be closing their doors permanently after August 31st. Gordon McKenzie has been a part of the Nipissing community for a long time and has served on the town's council. He says he learned about the closure at the beginning of the month and has since written a letter to the CEO of the beer store to express how this will affect Nipissing.
It's very discouraging, and especially when you talk about the effect on locals, it's just not, people that consume alcoholic beverages, like from the beer store, but it's the restaurants, right, and the local businesses. And if you're going to have an event at the Legion, for example, and you want to be able to order in some product from the beer store, or if you're going to have a wedding, or if you're having an anniversary, it's all those things that are going to be impacted.
Well, truthfully, I'm not really happy about it because it is a big source of income, I guess, for the neighbors. We always, every long weekend, it's always packed here, and people are going camping and fishing, and it's a busy little place at times.
Mackenzie's letter also lists other effects of the closure, like the loss of local jobs, as well as the possibility that normally recycled liquor, wine, and beer containers could be diverted to the local landfill instead. Thunder Bay Superior North MPP Lise Vaugeois says the closures appear to be fallout from the deal between Ontario and the beer store to end their contract.
The beer store now has the right to start closing stores across the province. So to a large extent, they will be getting out of the business as the sale of beer moves into other locations. For the North, that means that not only will people may or may not have access to purchasing beer, but there's nowhere to take the empties.
Nipissing Mayor Suzanne Kuko says having another vacant building in the town coupled with the loss of 2 jobs in the community was a blow. But she hopes that local entrepreneurs will see this as an opportunity to add a new stream of revenue to their existing operations or even open a new business. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
2 Nipissing men have been arrested on numerous charges following a pair of violent home invasions last Thursday morning. OPP responded to a 911 call on Hogan Avenue, where they found 2 injured males. A second nearby home was also broken into. The 2 suspects, aged 40 and 32, were located by police and arrested without incident. They're both charged with break and enter, robbery, and assault causing bodily harm and remain in custody. The City of Dryden has received provincial support to fix the local library's leaky roof. Ontario's Minister of Northern Development, Greg Rickford, was in Dryden last week to announce over $133,000 to help maintain the structure. Justin Hardy has the details.
The books in the City of Dryden's library have been threatened by rain due to a series of leaks in the building's roof. New provincial funding will see the entire roof of the building replaced, as well as the installation of a new air conditioning system. Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford, who serves as the province's Minister of Northern Development, says services like libraries are crucial in smaller communities, and he's happy to be able to help through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund.
In the post-modernization of the NOHFC, we've really been able to target small community assets that mean the world, not just to the town or city, but to surrounding communities. And the Dryden Library is perhaps one of the best examples of that out here in northwestern Ontario. It's an amazing building. They offer an incredible array of services and programs. And to be able to offer those programs and services, you got to have the building to do it.
Most of the leaks the library has experienced have been relatively small. Caroline Goulding, CEO and Chief Librarian of the library, says that the funding comes just in time to prevent more major leaks that could devastate the books in the building.
Thankfully, no books have been harmed, and we're really, really grateful for this project because obviously we want to make sure that that continues and everything gets fixed ahead of there being any major leaks. And then we're also getting a brand new HVAC unit, which I am very grateful for because our current one has started to go down anytime we get a thunderstorm. So I am very excited to get this new unit installed, and we're very, very grateful for the support of NOHFC.
The funding is in place, but there is currently no timeline available for when the project will start or when work is expected to be completed. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Borderland Pride made it their mission this year to enter a pride float for this year's annual Emo Fall Fair Parade. And last weekend, that mission was accomplished. Borderland Pride co-chair Douglas Judson says the public had a mostly positive reception of the Pride float, which carried the slogan, "Make Emo Gay Again." Roughly a dozen Borderland Pride members were in the parade, and the Pride float took second place. Judson says he hopes the group's participation conveyed a message that we're still here, we're still working on these issues. And he says Borderland Pride wants more residents to know that Pride is here for them, and they're welcome to participate in it.
What I want people to think about as they see us in the parade, they see that we're part of the community, that we're contributing something positive to a local event that I think people are proud of. That Pride is something that can be of value to everyone, that it projects a positive self-image for the community, that it makes the community a more attractive place to live.
4 years ago, Borderland Pride asked Emo Council to change its May 2020 decision to not proclaim June as Pride Month, but the council refused. The Pride organization then filed a complaint with the Human Rights Tribunal, and a decision is expected later this year. Time now for another short break. We've got Atikokan's Alex Samson on America's Got Talent coming up.
You were unbelievably nervous, weren't you? Could you tell?
Yeah. I could see that. I could feel that.
The young Atikokan singer-songwriter who charmed the judges on America's Got Talent in early July was back on the popular TV show this past week, competing for a spot in the semifinals. Alex Samson made it this far thanks to his original song, Pretty Baby, and he decided to perform yet another original ballad to make the audience and the viewers swoon. Jonathan Wilson has more.
Now let's start the judging.
Alex Samson's second appearance on America's Got Talent featured a montage of images of the up-and-coming singer in his hometown of Atikokan. Then it was time to perform his latest song called If You Were My Girl.
From a very small town, Atikokan, Canada, to the world's biggest stage, here's Alex Samson.
If you were my girl.
Sticking with his signature 1960s influenced style, Samson's live performance sparked a huge reaction from the audience at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. And once the cheering subsided, Samson received high praise from most of the celebrity judges.
I feel like you really are a gem and you really just polished yourself up real nice and you are sparkly on that stage.
Alex, I think you're a star. I think that song being an original song again, and you know already the lane that you like you know, the 50s, 60s, perfect for you. Good job tonight.
You were unbelievably nervous, weren't you?
Could you tell?
Yeah. I could see that. I could feel that. I think some of the tuning was a little bit off at times. However, our audience is really, really gonna like you.
I love how excited everybody is about the typical Canadian boy. That's what we like, right?
Samson's fate was then in the hands of voters across America to determine whether he would move on to the semifinals. The following night's episode saw the dramatic moment as the results were revealed.
Alex Samson! Alex, what do you want to say to the people at home? Oh my God! We'll see you in the semifinal. One more time for Alex Samson.
Samson was clearly in shock with excitement as fans in the audience, and surely the folks back home in Atikokan, erupted with cheers. Viewers will now have to wait for the conclusion of 2 more quarterfinal rounds before getting to see Samson perform again during the semifinals in early September. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
The grand opening of a new playground at the Matawa Training and Wellness Center was celebrated this week, costing just over $500,000. The project at Thunder Bay facility is another step in providing support to Matawa families at risk of child welfare involvement. Nev Van Pelt reports.
It was an exciting day at the Matawa Training and Wellness Center as Matawa Awashishiwijihiwewen celebrated the addition of a new playground. Minister of Indigenous Services, Patty Haidu, says this is another step in providing the services children and families need for a fair chance to succeed.
To do that hard work of healing from trauma and from a number of other kinds of challenges that families are facing. Their children come with them, so the whole family unit gets to learn and grow together. And what we know is kids need actually to have time to play, and play is a big part of kids' healing journey, so this is fantastic.
The program has been operating a 6-unit transitional housing living space for Matawa families for just under a year. And program manager Robin Larrett was in tears seeing the playground officially become part of their wraparound services.
It's overwhelming and amazing. I'm super proud of the work that this team does, working with families, and being able to see and finally cut the ribbon on this wonderful space is just amazing.
The new playground, landscaping, and fencing cost just over $511,000 and was made possible with support from Indigenous Services Canada.
This is a reorientation of healing that's designed by Indigenous people, for Indigenous people, supported by language, culture, love, and connection to culture and identity is a critical ingredient for healing.
Families have been watching the playground be built from the windows for a while now, and Larrett says they're very grateful to add this safe outdoor space to their training and wellness center.
These families become our families, and really it's about wrapping our families in a blanket of love and care, and that's what our name means. Awashishiwijihiwewen means a blanket of support and care for a child, and that's truly what we do.
With many of the children and their families coming into the program with past traumas, bringing in this playground is essential to give them an outlet to play, socialize, and grow. Nev Van Pelt, TBT News.
And that wraps up this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. We hope to see you again next week.